Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm Robbie Rhino, and in today's video I have two replays for you in what are arguably the two best tank destroyers in Era 1 of the Cold War game mode. The first, as you can see in the background, is the FV4005, and the second gameplay will be in the NM116. Both of these tanks are Western Alliance Era 1 tank destroyers. However, the NM116 is a premium tank, and the FV4005, which you're seeing coming up first in today's video, is a tech tree tank for the Western Alliance. So both of these tanks are extremely powerful, but for two very different reasons, and I'll be going over what those reasons are throughout today's video. We'll start off talking briefly about the FV4005, and then I'll tell you my commander and equipment setup, and then we'll get stuck into talking about how this thing plays on the battlefield and how it dominates on the battlefield. So, the FV4005, what is this tank? Well, if you are familiar with the World War II game mode, you'll recognise this tank as the Tier 10 British tank destroyer with a whopping great 183mm gun, and it's basically the same tank that's in Era 1 of the Cold War game mode, and it's a little bit contentious to some people, myself included, whether this thing should be in Era 1, whether it is a little bit too powerful, but it does have some very glaring weaknesses that you can exploit, and I'll talk you through that in just a little bit. But the FV4005 is a little bit faster in the Cold War game mode than in the World War II game mode, the same 183mm gun, a few different gun handling differences, but all in all, it's basically the same tank. So this 183mm gun, you can fire basically two different kinds of ammunition. You have HE rounds or HESH rounds, and you have AP rounds. The AP rounds have fantastic penetration at 310mm for 1150 alpha damage, and with the HESH rounds, which are the premium rounds on this tank, it's 240mm of penetration for 1450 damage, and you can fire regular HE, which has 92mm of penetration for 1450, but for the most part you're going to be firing just the first two lots of ammunition, so the standard AP and the premium HESH rounds, and the penetration on the standard rounds is absolutely fantastic for Era 1, and you can make the HESH rounds work at 240mm of penetration very easily indeed, especially against weakly armoured plates on pretty much every tank you're going to come across, and those alpha damage numbers for Era 1 is absolutely insane. You really do punish people. You can one-shot a lot of tanks in Era 1 of the Cold War game mode, and you can be very powerful indeed. This tank is all about this gun. As you can see, it's a very large profile tank destroyer. It's very easy to spot with the True Vision system. The camouflage is absolutely terrible on this tank. The still concealment rating is absolutely god-awful, so I put all of my commander and equipment setup focus into getting this gun as good as it can be. So what do I run on the FV4005 in terms of my equipment and on my commander? Well, in terms of my equipment, I run improved ventilation, advanced loader and advanced reload, and with my commander I run Sixth Sense, Born Leader, rapid loading, steady aim, rapid aim, snapshot, run and gun, Deadeye and marked target. So in terms of my equipment, ventilation gives that boost to every single aspect of the tank, including the gun handling and the DPM. Advanced loader to improve the DPM of the tank. And in terms of the advanced reload, that allows me to switch between the AP and the HESH rounds without any penalty to having to reload at all, so I can switch between my AP to my HESH rounds depending on what target I come up against without having to reload another magazine, and that can come incredibly useful on a tank like this where there are two extremely viable different alternative ammunition choices. In terms of my commander, rapid loading helping the DPM, gun handling perks to help this big 183mm caliber gun be as good as it can be. And then I have Deadeye, which would mean my AP rounds are more likely to cause module damage and crew damage to any tank that I fire against, and that only works with the AP rounds. And mark target means that any tank that I spot will last for 3 seconds more on the map, giving more tanks to shoot at them, which can be a very helpful skill on a tank like this, as we are in the background in a duel with an Object 268, arguably maybe the third best tank destroyer in Era 1 of the Cold War game mode. I lock onto the 268 and my shell misses and hits that poor T-44, I believe, in the background, and now we're just trying to evade this turretless tank destroyer in the form of the Object 268, and we're trying to get around him, and we're trying to stay in this battle for as long as possible. We really should be dead right now if this T-44 could shoot. However, I'm very thankful that he can't, because it means that I am in this battle and we can deal some more damage. So like I said at the start of this video, the FE 4005, it's all about this gun. You don't have the ability to get your still concealment down to a rating where it's going to be easy to hide from your opponents, and it wasn't actually T-44, it was the M46A1 that we were battling at as we take him out there. You don't have the ability to take your concealment down to a good rating. You're going to be spotted by everything that you come up against and outspotted in terms of the vision mechanics, and with the true vision system you're going to be spotted very easily, especially on ridgelines and hills like we are here. But I've chosen to come here on Fredvang because I want to take the hill. It gives me fantastic shots all around the sort of map, apart from the very south western corner of the map and the very northwestern corner of the map, but it's a very important location. I just have to be very wary of my profile of this tank, and I'm just coming up, getting a shot in, and then I'm falling back down and hopefully keeping my tank as hidden as possible as we blast these shells in. And you do low roll quite often with this tank in the Cold War game mode due to the fact that newer players get a better RNG roll with the damage numbers that they are taking. However, you still deal a heck of a lot of damage, and it's the biggest caliber gun in Era 1 of the Cold War game mode. So it's just all about the gun. It's all about making this gun work every single time that you realise you want to be firing, because it hasn't got fantastic DPM. However, once you penetrate those HESH rounds, you really do boost up your DPM to a very nice level indeed. As you've seen in the background on Fredvang, we have slapped some pretty big shells in throughout this game. We're now at 9.3k direct damage and 1444 assistance, and we're trying to evade this shell. I'm trying to get over to the 10k mark. Unfortunately, that Turan 5SH manages to shut us down there. I think he was on the move and he hits us over the ridgeline with this massive box-like turret. This turret doesn't have any armour at all. In fact, the strongest part of the turret, I believe, all the way round is 14mm of armour, which can be penetrated by everything from HE to AP rounds, so be very careful of that indeed. But nonetheless, in a very short space of time, we have done a phenomenal amount of damage in this game. You can see that we dealt well over 10k combined damage, and that should be enough to help or give our team the best chance of taking the rest of this game down. I'm just hoping that some of the tanks at the back with some hit points left do go forwards, use their hit points and try and push this game and take this one down, because it would be very disappointing if this one was a loss. But in terms of the gameplay, it really was all about the gun. In between the very long reloads on this gun, with my commander and equipment set up, you're looking at a 23-second reload, 23.4 second reload for these massive alpha damage numbers. The gun handling isn't too bad. I've got my accuracy down to 0.32 and my aim time down to 2.44 seconds. You can carry 20 rounds of ammunition, so I believe I carry 10 AP and 10 HESH rounds, and it's all about this gun. It's a very good sort of gun handling for a 183 caliber gun. It can be a little bit derpy if you don't let it aim in the whole way. Elevation's a struggle at 8 degrees, but the gun depression at 10 degrees means it's quite flexible on ridgelines. You just have to be very wary that you don't have any armor, but you do have that firepower to make people scared of you and put them off coming over to attack you. And if you stick with your teammates, don't get isolated and don't get into a DPM fight with another tank, you should be golden in the FE 4005. So whilst we finished talking about the FE 4005, you can see here that unfortunately my teammates haven't managed to take this one down. There is just one tank left on our team, and he is taken out by the Turan 5SH, bringing that game to a close. But in a defeat there, we managed to pick up 9.3k direct damage, 1444 assistance. We get the 1 kill, finish top of our team. A very decent defeat there. I can't be too disappointed. I probably should have preserved my hit points a little bit better throughout the battle, but apart from that, a very decent game indeed. So we're going to skip on now into the second gameplay of today's video in the NM116 with a completely different playstyle. So you're joining me here in the second gameplay of today's video. We're here on Dragon Ridge with the NM116, and straight off the bat you can see that this tank is a lot smaller than the FE4005, and yes, it does have a much better still concealment rating than the FE4005. This thing's concealment is absolutely fantastic, and if you know how to play this thing and abuse the vision mechanics and the different positions on different maps, this thing is just as powerful, even more powerful than the FE4005 if you use this thing correctly. If you use the pretty decent mobility, it's kind of similar to the FE4005, slightly better because it does have a fully traversable turret, and use the concealment rating and the smaller profile to sit in bushes, sit in all the foliage, sit in the shadowy areas, keep your tank hidden, and use this gun. It's got better DPM than the FE4005 with this 90mm caliber gun. Obviously it's a smaller caliber gun by some way than the FE4005, but it does have better gun handling, better shell velocity, it's much better for sniping at mid to long ranges, and the DPM is better like I have just said. So for this 90mm gun, the reload that I have got with my commander and equipment setup, which I'll tell you about in just a little bit, is 5.05 seconds for one round. The gun handling, I have a 1.82 second aim time and a 0.26 accuracy, and my DPM is 3,329, which is about 400 more than I had with a fully upgraded FE4005 firing AP. This 19mm gun deals 280 damage with its standard and premium rounds, and 370 with its third ammunition choice, which is HE. So the standard on this tank is APF SDS. As you can see, I carry full APF SDS rounds, and its premium ammunition option is heat rounds. In terms of the APF SDS, they have a fantastic shell velocity at 1,275 meters a second, meaning that it's great for sniping at this kind of range on a map like Dragon Ridge and leading your targets. You don't have to give too much lead like you do with the 183mm caliber gun of the FE4005. The penetration values for the 280 alpha damage on the standard and premium rounds is 262mm of penetration on the standard rounds and 320mm of the heat rounds, but the heat rounds are slower at 950 meters a second. You can't go through spaced armor very well or at all with the heat rounds, so I carry full APF SDS rounds to make the most of that shell velocity and the silver earning potential, as this is a premium tank. But 280 alpha damage every 5 seconds, you can build up some very nice damage, and with this fantastic still concealment rating you can pick up some very nice assistance of your own, play kind of like a pseudo light tank and spot enemies for yourself, whereas with the FE4005 you do have to rely on other tanks to spot for you, sit back, pop out, get a shot and retreat, whereas this thing you can sit in a position as long as you know people aren't tracing your shell tracers or they are sort of looking at you and you're skylining yourself on a ridgeline, which is why I always try and knock over trees in this, fall back to make sure no one's looking, then get into the bushes and try and hide myself as best as possible. In terms of the still concealment of the NM116, my still concealment rating with my commander and equipment setup is 122 meters, which is absolutely fantastic. You can see here that we're firing into the center of the map at tanks that are sort of 300 to 400 meters away, not getting spotted, which is absolutely fantastic. You just do have to be wary of people looking for your shell tracers and trying to find where you are, so it can be advisable to move as much as possible, and definitely move in between the different trees and bushes and shadowy areas on the map. So in terms of the equipment and commander setup, what do I run with the NM116? Well, in terms of my equipment, I run advanced loader, I run advanced concealment and traction system, and with my commander I run sixth sense, spawn leader, rapid loading, steady aim, snapshot, run and gun, camouflage expertise, muffled shot and green thumb. So in terms of my equipment, I run the advanced loader to improve my DPM, concealment to help the concealment clues in the name there, and traction system to help my traverse speeds as well as my top speed. And with my commander I run some gun handling perks as well as 3 of the concealment perks and rapid loading to help my DPM. So the differences there are clear. This one's all about its DPM, it's about its size, its mobility and its concealment. You can have the ability with the NM116, in my opinion, to carry a game easier than in the FE4005 due to its concealment rating and due to its DPM. You just have to find the right map, find the right positions, and get used to firing at this at sort of mid to long ranges and outplaying your opponents with the vision mechanics, making sure you're spotting through bushes so they are transparent, pulling back behind the foliage till it's opaque, firing through and retaining as much of your concealment as possible. And you can see here that we're very close to targets and not getting spotted. This T95E3, 155, 160 meters away, didn't spot us at all there. He's either had his commander injured or he hasn't got a crew, or a very, very bad commander indeed. And that's how easily you can outplay people with the NM116. It's maybe a slightly easier tank for more experienced players, slightly harder for newer players, but it is still a very powerful tank destroyer indeed. You just have to put more rounds in for every round that someone fires at you, and it's very easy to do with the fantastic concealment rating of the NM116. In terms of the consumables, I didn't mention on the FE4005, I run the food, which is very risky because of your size. It would be more advisable if you're a little bit concerned about the camo on the FE4005 to run the enhanced smoke screen, which is what I run on the NM116 to help the concealment out just that little bit more. And yeah, it's two different playstyles. FE4005, all about that, getting those big damage numbers in, falling back, having the opportunity to reload, and this thing's about getting forwards, getting some spotting assistance, playing that pseudo kind of light tank role, and also putting your DPM to work with your concealment rating. Two very different playstyles, but equally as powerful. You can see here that we're having a fantastic game on Dragon Ridge. We got ourselves into a very sticky situation here against an FE4005. We're rocking backwards and forwards, trying to make the most that we have a fully traversable turret, and he doesn't. Unfortunately, we get out of that mess, and now we're just going to go round for round with this T95E3, who does have good DPM, but he's getting shot up by our teammates, and we're going to try and see if we can take him out. He gets taken out by another friendly NM116, and now we're going to race around using the mobility. And that's what's fantastic about this tank, is that at the end of the battle you have that mobility to get around and try and get the last little bit of damage in. So there's just one enemy left on the enemy team. It's the T95E3, and we're going to see if we can pick up a little bit more damage to add to our already fantastic game. So we're going to follow our other friendly NM116 in, use the distraction, get a shot in on the side of this tank, and hopefully we're going to finish this tank off before he takes out our friend. 41 hit points left. I'm going to go for a ram. Didn't do as much damage as I thought, but this is a very small tank, and we do get the final shell in there. So two very different tanks, two very good games. In this game we picked up 3 kills, 7k direct damage, 1112 assistance, a master badge, and we finish in the MVP slot with 1662 base experience points with a nice 236,998 silver profit. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video, seeing the differences between these two tanks, but how powerful they can be. Consider them when you are looking at the team list at the start of the battle, and make sure you try and avoid getting into fights with these tanks for the two different reasons that I have tried to put across in today's video. And I hope that you've enjoyed watching these two replays. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you on the battlefield, and bye for now.